Hey Greg, how's it going today?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Greg, I'm excited to talk to you today. Thanks so much for putting some time aside. I think you and the company that you're with, Sentient and Foray, are in a really interesting position. And I think, from the companies that I've worked with and the companies I've seen, your organization in terms of values, culture, strategy, like you guys are kind of a gold standard that we look up to. And so I think this will be a super interesting conversation because of kind of the market effects of everything that's happening right now. So before we start, I thought maybe you could just do a quick intro of who you are, your background, what Sentient is, and the market that you guys help, and then yeah, we can kind of go from there.
That sounds great, Michelle. Like you had mentioned, my name is Greg Dixon. I am the Director of Business Development for Sentient HR Services. And Sentient has been around for just over 16 years. I oversee the organization as a whole, and we're a part of a larger umbrella organization called the Foray Group. And what's interesting is that the Foray Group really um, just aligns and creates and develops businesses in the care industry space, really kind of the vulnerable markets. And currently, our focus is on childcare. And so, Sentient, being a part of Foray, provides childcare supply staff to hundreds of daycares and private schools all across the Greater Toronto area. And as an agency, we recruit and we train and we onboard, and then we connect childcare workers to jobs in the market. And there's a real need for registered early childhood educators and assistants in daycares across the city and really kind of worldwide, globally. When your child's teacher is away for any reason, whether it's due to not feeling well that day or something longer term like a mat leave, instead of spending time recruiting yourself as a director or a supervisor, people will call Sentient HR to find that perfect fit for a temporary solution. And then, of course, we offer permanent hiring too. So if you
Cool.
need somebody permanently, we have that option too. And so it's a really exciting time to be in childcare and in the staffing industry, and really to try and find excellent jobs for people who deserve work and who want to work in a field that they're passionate about. And what better field to be passionate about than childcare?
Yeah, totally. Definitely a rewarding industry for sure. And so Sentient is a part of kind of the larger umbrella of Foray, which also invests and owns businesses all focused in the childcare industry, right?
That's correct. That's correct. We have 9 daycare centers called the Centers for Early Learning. We have 2 private schools, the Montessori Country School in Nobleton and Milton, and then we also have Wholesome Kids Catering, which is a child catering company, and they provide meals to children in childcare across the GTA as well. So all very kind of driven toward enriching lives and enriching the lives of children through our
Mm.
businesses.
And then you said that your role is business development, but you're kind of running the strategy side of it as well, right? Like you're kind of looking at the business as a whole and also looking at how you're going to address the market in the future. Like from what I know working with you, but it sounds like yeah, your role's a little bit more like kind of like a CEO strategy side as well as business development, right?
That's right, yes. My title is business development, but I oversee the entire organization of Sentient. And so I'm responsible for operations, strategy, execution, and then obviously culture, which is incredibly important at a time like this where we may not have operations running, we don't have operations running as we knew it before COVID-19 impacted the entire globe. And so, what we rely on and what I'm really pulling on is some of the culture foundation that I built along with my team that allow us that tenet to hold on to, the tether to ensure that we're all staying true to our purpose during this time. And it really brings a level of confidence in the business when everyone around us who we work with realize that and know that we are a values-driven organization and can be counted on over and above the typical operations of providing childcare supply staff to centers. And so
Yeah.
we've really been a trusted partner with our clients, with our staff, within the Foray organization, because of the culture work we've done to lay a strong foundation, which I didn't realize, but until now, really aids us in getting through this crisis.
Yeah. So, yeah, the culture work that you guys have done with the organization is amazing. And actually, from my perspective, going into your organization and learning more about you guys and working together and tackling some big challenges that you're working on, I kind of saw it as the first time I experienced working with you guys and the way you approach culture. It was kind of like this realization of, yeah, all these organizations talk about culture, and a lot of it is kind of theoretical. And what I thought was impressive was that, you know, your organization builds actual strategies, and you actually work like culture is actually driven as part of an overarching strategy and purpose of the organization, and it's reinforced, and there's very specific actions that you take in order to reinforce that and help drive the business forward. And that is just an observation. I'm sure you have way more insight into that than I would, but that was something that was really mind-blowing for me to see an organization where like, oh yeah, okay, culture actually does drive business strategy and performance, and this is how you actually do it, versus, you know, we have an amazing culture and therefore we can hire the best employees or something like that.
Exactly.
So I'm interested to hear from you, like, what a values-driven organization is. Like, what does that actually mean to you in the context that you're in? And then I have some other questions about, you know, how, you know, what's happening for your organization now, and then how do you actually continue driving that culture?
Mm-hmm. So your observations are very correct or accurate. We believe that culture is a differentiating factor. So it sets us apart. It makes us. It builds. It isn't just words on a page, and it isn't self-touting as we are. We are a strong culture. We live our culture, and it is a differentiating factor. It drives revenue. It drives strategy. It drives our hiring process to ensure that we have A players on the team that align with that culture. Because once you have the alignment of team to culture, really that alignment also starts to be seen through kind of strategy and their roles as part of driving the strategy forward and how they bring new ideas to the table. And then you're not worried about how one of your team members are interacting with a client or each other, because the strategy is really, they see themselves as part of the strategy, and that how they show up at work is a part of our is living our values.
Yeah.
And so values to me is really who you are as a person, and whether who you are character trait wise and how you live your life align with the very concrete values of the company that you work with. And so what has to happen is a lot of work needs to get done on what are the values of the organization, how do you make it align, easy to digest for your clients and your staff, so that everyone knows what your values are and can understand them, and that they feel tied to them. Because once you have that clearly defined value, and it can be fun, and it should be memorable, and it should be brief, those values part of your charter, but it has to be understood, and then you can really put into place a plan of action throughout the course of the year, just like you would develop strategy and execution that help to reinforce the values of your organization to your stakeholders, all of them, not just your staff, but your clients have to know about them. Your investors should know about them, so that you are making it top of mind, and kind of rehashing it on a consistent basis.
That makes sense. Yeah. So how have things changed for your organization over the last couple weeks?
So we have we supply staff to childcare centers, and so we have no childcare centers to supply staff to. So
Right.
we have no one, no customers who are open right now, because every childcare center in private school, public school,
And
in
your business
Ontario
model
is
is kind of on demand, right? It's like I need staff, so I will work with Sentient in order to staff my organization. And so you're kind of turning this wheel of on-demand purchasing that's happening. And if there's no demand, there's no long-term contracts or anything like that. So you're kind of like at the whim of the market, really, right?
That's right. Yes, and people use us to help them with ratios. So we're in a highly regulated field where you have to maintain a certain ratio based on age group, and so when a staff is away, you have to still meet that ratio, and you have to meet it with
Okay.
the right qualification. So we are very important to
Yeah.
our clients, and we have well over 400 that use us annually. 400 unique, and we have about 370 staff right now on the team. Remember that they're employees, not contractors.
Yeah. Wow.
And so they actually receive an ROE. So how has the business changed? Well, because we don't have clients to serve right now, what we have done is really become kind of a trusted partner to our staff and clients. Like I said, as part of our culture. So we have provided over 370 records of employment. We have put out communications to our team as to how to apply for EI. We have supported them in because a lot of our staff are new to the country, or never been laid off before. And
Mhm.
so we've really step by step guided them through the process. With our clients, we've provided them with ideas to share with their own parent group, so that they can keep their children engaged. We've
Mhm.
almost given them content to be able to share with their communities, and kept them abreast as to what's going on in the industry. And then we've also really taken this time to recruit permanent position openings that we have been retained for. So
Okay.
we're Zoom interviewing for permanent um, directors, supervisors, boards that have asked us to find a replacement because their leader is leaving. And we've been receiving tremendous candidates because Indeed and all of the job sites are very busy as people are looking for out there. We've also started a new online platform, so we're doing training,
Interesting. So
and
a bit of a
we
pivot, right, into training and communication and
exactly. So we're
interesting.
starting an online training program. So we've engaged with Teachable, and it's a learning management platform, a learning systems platform, and we've created our first course called "How Does Learning Happen?" A refresher, and we're putting it out for free to our staff and our clients, so that childcare workers across Ontario will still be engaged with professional development,
Hmm.
and can progress through a refresher. If they're not in the classroom practicing, this is a great way to remember best practices. And we've got an online dialogue box that they can connect with, which is great. So
Yeah.
just introducing Connected. It's called Connect ED, and it's our educational division of Sentient that we're opening up to just allow people the time during these long days to connect with each other online, but also share best practices and learn more about something that they do every single day.
Yeah, that's amazing. So so you have been impacted greatly to the business, obviously. And it sounds like you guys are doing some pivoting and trying to offer some additional services, but also just value during this time when people are struggling with all sorts of challenges. I mean, especially I can imagine like parents with young ones being home, it must be such a challenge to, adjust to the work from home life, but then also be managing kids that at that age that need entertainment, and you also have to worry about education and like what kind of content can you deliver for kids and stuff like that. What's kind of like your short and long term strategies to I mean, obviously the stuff we just talked about is more of a short term and partly long term, I guess, as well. But what have it's very early stages, but what have you kind of learned going through this experience, and what do you see as the outcome for your organization and the industry, and how do you see the industry changing potentially?
hmm So I think that for us, something that has been really beneficial, we have daily huddles as a team, and
Yeah,
so we huddle daily about, and we use kind of scaling up the Rockefeller Habits, the
yeah,
second version by Fern Parrish,
amazing
and
book.
amazing book,
Yeah,
and we use scaling up as an organization. So we have daily huddles, and we talk about strategy, and we talk about how we're going to get through this together, and then we have a COVID-19 huddle at the end of each day to share news as to anything anyone in the organization has heard related to COVID-19, so that we
mm,
are always aware of the news,
mm,
and are um, talking about how we're going to deal with, leverage, utilize, strategize about whatever news is coming out.
right,
So that's been beneficial. I think that one big important kind of short-term strategy for us that helps to develop long-term strategy is communication. So just kind of having a 15-minute huddle, 10 to 15-minute huddle with your team, and talking about what's gone right, what's gone well, what are your stuck areas, what is your one priority for the day,
hmm,
what would be kind of, if you can only do one thing, get one thing accomplished, what would that be? And then to be honest and authentic and vulnerable about your worries. So what are you worried about? Kind of what are you stuck with? And it doesn't mean that you're not good at your job, or not a good leader, or not successful in your industry, but it helps others to see you as vulnerable, but also to bring their ideas to the table. So part of my strategy is really connecting with intelligent, kind of team aligned, values aligned individuals in my organization. Um, the second, I would say, is for Sentient, is to take this time to provide value opportunities to your clients and staff. Stay connected. They're at home. Um, Everyone is feeling a little isolated, or a lot isolated. And whatever you can do to provide them with content that they can use or reuse to better connect with their clients
hmm,
will be deeply beneficial. And
hmm,
so for me, it's very much building a stronger trust, so that once we're past COVID-19 and the epidemic or the pandemic, we will be front of mind. And
yeah,
so now is the time to put money into the bucket, to really fill their bucket, fill the buckets of your client. There's a children's story called Filling Your Bucket. And because in the end, the results will be, they'll remember your support,
yeah,
and don't overwhelm them, but
mm,
kind of give them enough good content, curated content, original content, if at all possible, that they can use to benefit their business
yeah,
or themselves.
yeah. I read a study which I'll attach to this once it lives out in the ecosystem. But I read a study yesterday. I forget who it was from, but it was on the 2008 recession, and they found that companies that invested in marketing during the recession had a growth of, I think it was coming out of the recession, like 200% versus companies that didn't invest in marketing that averaged around the 19% growth coming out of the recession. So anyways, I just thought it was an interesting study and some interesting numbers, but it speaks totally to what you're talking about, right?
And we had a happy hour with Zoom, like on a Zoom conference call yesterday with my team, and we talked about Netflix, and we talked about just bringing joy. And I'm going to host one every week. I'm going to host a webinar on questions that our childcare centers have about anything related to COVID or not, that I will host next week. That will help them to stay connected.
Yeah.
I think what's key is absolutely marketing, but then thirdly, I would say is people. Take care of your people. Make sure that they feel like they've got not just an employer, but or not just a vendor, but somebody who really cares about them. So
Yeah, totally.
who knows who will show up? Again, you can only avail um, an opportunity to connect with people. But you would be surprised who does connect. Um, and I've noticed even myself personally as a leader, I enjoy webinars, but I've attended more webinars over the last week than ever,
Yeah,
because
same.
they're they're triggering something in our brain to say, you know what, I'm going to take that time. I want to connect with people, and
Yeah,
I also want to learn. And
yeah,
so if we're doing it as leaders, we should also expect our customers and our staff to want the same.
yeah. So, yeah, speaking of webinars and kind of like the digital infrastructure and all that, and work from home, all these things that are happening right now, and all these experiments that companies are doing, what do you think is going to be the new normal for your industry once we all kind of come out of this and are all back at work? I think there's just so many interesting things happening right now. Like, you know, the fitness industry is fascinating to me. It's like, I don't know why these physical gyms haven't also been supplementing with virtual classes for additional revenue, lower price point or something like that, and just like fill up as many classes, because you don't need the physical footprint necessarily. So, that's just an example off the top of my mind that I've been like wondering, because now it seems like every fitness-based business is doing online versions of their classes. But
Mhm.
there's so many fascinating things happening, and I'm curious what you think, how you think this is going to change your industry.
Yes, I think that we're going to be less scared, less tepid about going online and working from
Mhm.
home. I feel as a traditional business, a fairly traditional mindset, with innovative business strategy, but traditional in how we show up to work. We have beautiful offices in Markham, and
You do.
we
They're gorgeous.
enjoy. They are, and we enjoy functioning in that space, collaborating, utilizing the entire space as a meeting room. It's just outstanding, and they are gorgeous. But I also feel as if the fear of working from home, of your employees becoming working in a mediocre manner, not dedicating fully to the work at hand when they're at home, I feel like that generalization will and is dissipating completely.
Mhm.
And that's really powerful, especially if you've got a values-based business where you trust the people that you have employed by you, but at the same time, work from home has always been it's not necessary. Will we get the best work out of our employees if they work from home with the distractions that might be? And I
Mhm.
feel like that generalization has really been shattered in this COVID-19 crisis that we're in. And I think that's really refreshing, because technology has been there and shown that it functions well. I do feel we should have been more prepared for this, though. And
Yeah.
we've always
Yeah.
had the technology, and we really haven't leveraged it. And it's too bad that a crisis like this has been the precipice of all of us jumping on, where this
Mhm.
could have been a much better way of going earlier on. and has deep connections to just the environment and our
Yeah.
consumerism and our habits. Like, I think that gas, an example of gas, we have reduced kind of our environmental footprint by being at home.
Yeah.
And so I strongly feel like we're not all going to work from home 24 hours a day. That's not where this is going. But I feel like we can be much more open to leveraging technology and improving technology so that we feel even better connected from wherever we are.
Yeah, totally. And even just like, reevaluating what a fixed expense of an office is, like some of these
Absolutely.
buildings they cost a fortune. It's not flexible. You're locking in sometimes for 5 years. It's like, okay, well, what if it's 30% less and it's viewed more as a collaborative space instead of an office where I have to be at this specific desk, versus more of a space that you go for collaborating, meeting with clients, connect to the cloud through any computer. Like I think there's a lot of discussions going on around, the cost of real estate and how much you're spending to have a physical footprint when, this is kind of proving that it's not really that necessary in all cases. I also think that you're right. We've had the technology and we've had the ability to work remotely for so long, but I think it's been a cultural shift. We're forced into a cultural shift. I think the average organization, large organization, has been very conservative in the past about work from home. Some companies are not allowing it at all, for a variety of reasons, but it definitely has been interesting to see this huge shift in setting everyone up for work from home. And I think, we're in week 3 now or something, and I think there's still organizations out there that are struggling to get that infrastructure set up because it's never been done before. And
Yeah.
to turn that around with a huge workforce in such a short period of time must be like an unbelievable challenge, because it's not just the tactical stuff of like, what does my network look like? How am I connecting? Do people have laptops? How are they connecting in? Is everything secure? It's not just all the tactical stuff, but also like, how are you bridging your culture over to a remote workforce? How do you
Sure.
manage deliverables? How do you manage people remotely? What do you measure? Like all of these things that, for sure, I would assume most companies haven't gone to that level of depth. It's probably very, how do I set up a remote structure physically?
I think that Sentient's done a great job because, look, we had meetings about this before we went remote. We had
Oh,
presentations around what does remote what does remote working look like? What are our cadences during the day? What are our typical working hours where you have to be able to be reached?
mhm.
What stays in the office? What doesn't stay in the office? So privacy rules and regulations, um, and and then setting up online platforms so that you are able to connect with each other at any time. So we've started a Facebook group for our 370 supply staff, and they feel connected that way. And then we've
Yeah,
got daily drop-in Zoom calls that people can come into at any time.
that's
And
great.
we use Microsoft Teams because we're on the Azure platform. And
Mhm.
so we're really, we set cadences, we set up plans for KPIs, reporting KPIs. We use Metronome to report our KPIs. So we've just got systems in place that allow everyone to be aware of the status of projects.
That's amazing. So that's exactly why I wanted to talk to you, because you guys, it doesn't surprise me that you've already been putting strategy and plans in place before you were forced to actually make that switch over. I'm curious what kind of KPIs you would be measuring and reporting on.
Yeah, it's great. So right now it's more challenging. So
I bet, yeah.
um, because we our KPIs are normally number of filled hours, and number,
Right.
fill rate percentage, right? And so when your business has 30% or more reduction in revenue, I think it's important to reevaluate your KPIs. And so your KPIs change in that you move to a much more project-based environment
Hmm.
where it's a time to catch up and move projects along, um, connect with people that you may not have been able to get in contact with, but may have more time. And so our KPIs are really around um, kind of health, wellness, and networking. And so kind of it could be anything from number of glasses of water you drink a day to how much sleep you're getting,
That's
right?
great.
And so some of those wellness that help connect people together to how many new individuals who you should be talking to grow your business are you connecting with? And so just the the intention of reaching out to people who might be more willing to respond or reply, and sharing an opportunity just to chat about where your business is at that time and where their business is,
Yeah.
and to determine if there are any collaborations available.
Yeah.
So I think that there's never been a better time to cold call than now,
Yeah.
and reach out and make an intention. Just write down a list every morning or the night before of who you want to reach out to that next day, um, and have an intentional conversation with them. Have a goal in mind of what you want to accomplish with that conversation,
Yeah.
and then go for it, because I think that this is a great time to sell, and but in an authentic way, in a connection
Yeah.
way. How are you doing?
Yeah.
Um, is there an opportunity for us to work together when this is all over?
Totally.
And and is there a way that we can really truly collaborate to build both of our businesses for a win-win situation?
Yeah.
And then another great opportunity is research. So how many hours researching and kind of spending time on growth. And then lastly, spending time with people. Just
Yeah.
how are you? So I call between 10 to 20 supply staff every night just to check up on them. Now I've
That's
got
great.
370 of them, but I reach out to them and just say, hey, how are you? Is there anything I can do to help? So
Yeah.
take care of your people too. And
Yeah.
then take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't forget that. That's
Yeah.
great advice. That's really, really good advice. It's good to hear that, even though there's a bit of pain right now and there's a lot of changes to the industry that you guys are primarily focused on, that, you sense a level of calmness and a level of um, strategic foresight when I have this discussion with you, and I'm sure a lot of people will feel that too. And I think it's good to have these discussions because, as scary as the unknown is and everything that's going on right now, I think, like you said, there's an opportunity here to do some real deep thinking for yourself, your organization, but also the people that you're connected to through your business, your clients, your staff, and just kind of collectively start thinking about, how does this change things, not just for your organization, but your clients, the world, society, and what are we planning for when this all dissipates and we're all out and shopping again.
We're we're building systems that we can monetize in the future.
Yeah, that's
So
true too.
right, so the learning platform we can monetize in the future, and our front in mind, we're going to continue that so our clients order from us first, and then looking at new geographic regions. So when
Yeah,
this is over, where can we go across Canada, and even into the US, and what do those markets look like, and do
yeah,
due diligence as to number of centers and contacts and such. So really working on that expansion piece too.
yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for setting aside some time to chat. This was inspiring for me as well, and I took a lot away from it as well. And it's always good to catch up and hear what you guys are working on during these crazy times. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for the time. I
Right.
look forward to working with you again.
Great. Thanks, Greg.
Take care.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye.
Michelle. Bye.